And we're back with another episode of Scottsdale, Today and Tomorrow in Scottsdale, with Don and Kevin. I'm Don, you're Kevin.
Hi, Don. How are you?
I think you're Kevin, aren't you?
I am, every day.
Last time I saw you were Kevin.
Every day.
Yeah, you always got a big smile on your face, man. It's always brightens up my day when we get together for this podcast,
Thanks,
man.
buddy.
I really appreciate it. We got a great guest, as always. This may be our best one ever, but, you know, we can say that every week, right?
Yep.
We're saying it this week for sure. And our guest is Natalie Marsh. She's the Director of Learning and Innovation for Scottsdale Arts. Natalie, welcome.
Hello, hello.
So, Natalie, you've been in that role since 2016, and you got a long record of working in nonprofit roles all over the place, from event planning to customer service, museums, strategic planning. And what's really cool is you earned your Master's of Arts degree from Johns Hopkins University Advanced Academic Programs. You've got some credentials there.
I did. Yeah.
I'm glad we got her. I'm glad we got her here in Scottsdale here. That's for sure, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to get into your work for sure. But first, we want to know a little bit about you. Tell us about your background, where you grew up. That's because I know that's a cool story. How you got here, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, I took a meandering path to get here for sure. Grew up in Michigan and did my undergrad at the University of Michigan, finished up at Eastern. And I was doing my student teaching because I wanted to get my BFA in painting, but also, you know, needed a job. Just kidding. We can live as artists, okay?
Yeah.
Starving artists.
So I also got my teaching certificate. And I was doing my student teaching in January, and I saw the sun for 2 minutes the entire month of January, said, that's it, I'm done. When I graduate, I'm going to move to somewhere sunny. And I got a job in Coolidge, Arizona.
Coolidge.
Coolidge Unseen.
The arts capital of Arizona.
Boy, oh boy.
Yes.
Why'd you leave?
Bustling metropolis of Coolidge. So I moved to Chandler because I didn't want to leave the Phoenix metro area. I wasn't prepared to live in rural Arizona at that point. And did that for a year, and I met a Canadian, got married, and moved up to Canada, where I thought I would stay for 5 years. It turned into 15 because it was just a lot of fun. I got to have a lot of really interesting jobs, working mostly in alternative education areas. So I wasn't sure if I was a good fit for the school classroom, a little bit too much of a box-like setting for me. I needed to have flexibility in what I was doing, and I loved working with all different types of people. So I ended up kind of making a path into museum work, a career I didn't really think about when I was doing my undergrad. So got into museums. I worked in the largest museum in Western Canada at the time, called Glenbow.
What city were you in Canada?
I was in Calgary.
Calgary, okay.
So I worked my way up there, eventually running all of their school programs. We would see almost 50,000 kids a year through that museum. It was multidisciplinary. And funny enough, the first program I started teaching was Canadian history as an American.
Whoa.
Wow.
It was cool to see the parallels of how each country really did have a very similar development moving west with a railway, with, you know, all of so that was sort of a funny land that I had there. And then I had a stint working in municipal government, worked for the city of Calgary, running the downtown parks education department, had some really cool historic sites, a bird sanctuary, and really did education programs for the community when it comes to environmental sustainability. Then my last job before moving here was to work on a really exciting startup museum. It's now called the National Music Center. It was a very small organization when I joined, but they ended up building a $250 million building with exhibitions, performance spaces, education
similar
classrooms.
to the MIM?
In a way, yes, it is very similar to the MIM. We were always kind of seeing what the MIM was doing in our development, but ours ended up becoming the home for the Canadian Country Music Hall of Fame, the singer-songwriters, and the Music Hall of Fame. So we had a lot of artifacts from Canadian iconic musicians.
There's a lot of them too.
Yeah, so it was really, really cool to have Corey Hart's Sunglasses, like the Sunglasses at Night song, if I'm speaking to you. So I was, again, with the education department and ended up working a lot on exhibition design, which I loved. And that's what kind of got me into, you know what, I really do love museum work. That's why I want to pursue my master's at Johns Hopkins. And so pursued my master's, got my master's degree. And then as I was just finished, this job came up. And this job is an interesting one because it's part community, part museum, a little bit of city, right? Working within a municipality and a lot of education. So it was really kind of a fun fit. And in the time I'd been gone, my family moved here. So this was kind of me getting back to the U.S., but also in a place where my family lived.
Well, that's cool. You went Coolidge to Chandler. Was Chandler when you got the job here, or did you do something else in Chandler?
So Chandler was then. When I moved here, I had the job first. My sister and my parents both live in Scottsdale. Okay. So I ended up buying a house in South Scottsdale. So
great.
I am one of those rare birds that get to ride my bike to work.
How'd you find out about the job at Scottsdale Arts?
Just snooping around. I think it was posted on a museum, like the American Association of Museums will often have job listings they'll send out. And I just always was looking, right? You always are kind of seeing what's out in the landscape, whether it's to grow your team in interesting ways or just see what opportunities are out there. And when I saw that job description, I was like, I have to try.
So are you in the role now that, are you doing the work now that I'm trying to say, was that role posted for what you do now? Or do you sound like, because it sounds like you're doing something very similar in Calgary. Did you bring that to Scottsdale Arts or?
So the job was created, I was the first person to hold this specific position. Mm-hmm. So of course, if you're familiar with Scottsdale Arts, there is the museum, there is the performing arts. Yeah. Both of them had education directors. Both of them have had education as a part of it. I think the intent of this job was to unify education across the performing, the visual, and the public arts in order to have a more strategic engagement with the community using those arts as a way to do so. So this job was really taking both of those teams and bringing them together. So I had fluidity and the ability to change the job and adapt it based on not only experience, but also listening to the community and what the community needed. Okay. And I do still have a great team of people that really brought terrific skills to the team that they were really qualified to do. Some work directly with schools. They know curriculum backward and forward. Some work with adults who have various needs that the arts can help with. Some love working with teens, right? Like there's something for everyone. And I think that was where I had the ability to kind of recognize strengths, bring them together. So yes, obviously influenced from the other myriad places that I was
that part when, so about 6 years ago, so was that part when I was Gerd Wusterman just getting there then? Because he did a lot of reorganizing when he came on as CEO. Was that part of Gerd's plan there? Was he there when you came?
I predate Gerd.
You did?
Wow.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I'm one of very few directors there who predate Gerd, but there's been great change. I think I was there just a couple years before he was there. Okay. And I think it was exciting to see a CEO come on board that I was excited to have there, that really values art education, values the arts with community, and trusted me and my team with the experience we had to continue to drive that forward. So I am one of the few.
Well, he's a dynamo, so it must be fun working for him anyway, right? So
absolutely.
So your title, Learning and Innovation, what does that mean? What's that all about?
Well, we originally were education and outreach. And to me, that felt really, really passive. It felt also outreach to me means I have something and I'm bringing it to you. It felt a little top down. And what we really do is help people learn through the arts and with the art. That could be in a school where we are teaching curriculum using art as an equal importance in an everyday classroom to an adult who has mild to moderate dementia. We are learning together through the arts. The innovation is that you can't sit still. The landscape is changing. People are changing. Different people are needing different things. I know a lot of times we equate technology with innovation. I think innovation is the way in which you approach a problem and think about it differently. And really that's what the arts do every day. They ask a student to think a little differently about how you would respond to a social studies concept using art, or how we might perform a piece in a different space if we're a dancer. So we really, artists and arts thinkers are always using innovation.
I love the thought that technology is a tool for innovation, but you have to be in a mindset to be innovative, to pursue innovation, and then technology can help you get there.
Exactly.
It's an interesting way to look at it.
It's very good.
Yeah, that's true. I'm fascinated by the Memory Lounge program that you have, which deals with the adults you were talking about. How did that get created, and what's that all about?
So predating me, back in about 2008, the Arizona Commission got together a group of a few different arts organizations in the Valley. This was funded through Barrow Neurological as well. They were a partner in this. SMOCA was selected, the Phoenix Art Museum was selected, and Mesa Art Center. And they worked to create an Arts in Mind program that was addressing the fact that at the time, Arizona and Florida were the states that had the highest per capita instances of dementia and dementia-related disease, like Alzheimer's. So they were trying to address it in ways that were obviously not going to cure the disease that is outside of the scope of what we do, but being able to impact quality of life indicators, things like happiness, depression, ability to handle stress. All of those things have physiological effects. Of course, on the care receiver, the person with the illness, but then the caregiver, there's staggering statistics of how caregivers sometimes pass before the care receiver just due to stresses.
Sure.
So that's what they were looking at from a medical standpoint, is how can these organizations provide programming that would help these sort of softer issues, but can be very, very impactful. The challenge with the program is that shockingly, I say sarcastically, people don't go to arts organizations when they're diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, just going to say that out
That's kind of
loud.
innovative, isn't it?
So what we did is 2017, the Arizona Commission again had some funding for a bunch of different organizations to come together, regrow this, right? The issue has not gone away. And that's where we came up with our Memory Lounge program. And we wanted to take it as a play on a memory cafe, but a memory cafe, if you're familiar with those are all around the country. And those are where caregivers can take their loved ones and they can receive counseling and support from a caregiver perspective. What do I do when? How do I handle this? And then the care receiver can have a fun, playful experience like music and dance. And so it does use the arts, but a lot of times those two groups are separated out just to give respite. So what we wanted to do is keep them together, because most of the time is spent with doctor's appointments. The time you're spending together is going to be going to doctor's appointments and just dealing with everyday life, not really building new memories for the caregivers to have. So we deliberately made a program where caregiver, care receiver work together, create art, have fun, laugh and smile, do improv, paint, pottery, ceramics. We work with professional artists. We are always hiring local practicing artists for these programs. Many times they do have a tendency or an inclination to enjoy working with the population. But we want them to be also, it's not going to always be music. It's not going to always be improv. It's going to be all the things, because Scottsdale Arts is a multidisciplinary organization. Most recently, though, we were finding our attendance was waning. It's difficult because, like I said, people don't go to us to find programs.
So how do you get the word out about
So we
that?
partnered with Honor Health, who's just
There
across
you
the
go.
street from
Okay.
us. So Honor Health is a terrific partner.
Sure.
And we're starting to see huge upticks in people coming to the
Really?
program. So we do one program a week at the Beauvais Institute for Neuroscience at Honor Health, which clearly is what they want to have in an institute for neuroscience.
Yeah.
And then we have one on our campus, which is literally they're a block and a half away from each other. So we're hitting that catchment population, and also those who are coming from other areas in the Valley to Honor Health for their medical, then they're already in the neighborhood. They can attend these programs. And Honor Health has a great listing of arts programming now that they are doing at their institute. And it's just like a terrific partnership, right? We're starting, and we don't just have Honor Health patients. We're getting patients from all over.
That's great. You mentioned before that Phoenix and Mesa, your counterparts there, were doing stuff in this space. Are they still doing that kind of work? Are they still doing learning?
I know
innovation?
Mesa is
Yeah.
for
Okay.
sure. Yes,
Yeah.
they still have their Arts in Mind program
Yeah.
that they do very similar arts workshops. I looked recently for Phoenix Art Museum. I'm not sure. They might be. I don't quote me on that one.
What we talked about education earlier, and I know obviously you're very prominent in the school district. So talk about some. I know what the program I'm familiar with is. I know once a year, I think you display artwork from students in the Performing Arts Center, right? What other programs do you have? I'm sure you have some more.
Yes, we have lots. So our partnership with the school goes back many, many decades. We are a Kennedy Center Partners in Education site, which means we partner with Paradise Valley and Scottsdale school systems to provide teacher professional development using arts integration. So arts integration is when you teach curriculum and art at the same time. So that could look like a student in a first grade classroom expressing their understanding of the water cycle through dance. It could be a student understanding how you fold a piece of paper into triangles like origami to express understanding of math concepts. Could be a student reading the illustrations in a book to understand the story of the book and how the art tells the story to express literacy and comprehension of English language arts. So you're using both at the same time. This sounds kind of wow a little bit, but if you think about it, when you are a kid and you are a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old and you're learning the alphabet, you learn it by singing it to the tune of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star.
That's right. We all
So
did.
we all are learners
I still do it
through the
today.
arts.
I'm going to try it.
Right? I know, right? Yeah.
So it's not really out of the realm for us to continue this teaching process to help students better understand and also to help teachers be better teachers, to feel comfortable. I'm not the teacher who's going to go in there and do theater. That's not maybe where I feel comfortable, but I would integrate visual art into a classroom even if I was teaching science. There's ways that you can develop investigation, close looking skills by looking at work of art, which is incredibly important when you're doing scientific discovery too. So that's arts integration. We do teacher professional development, like I mentioned, through Kennedy Center. We are also the Wolf Trap Center for Performing Arts in Vienna, Virginia. They have an early childhood education program that we do for the babies, so kinders and preschoolers and sometimes first graders. And then we have a bunch of residencies that we do for all the grades in between that use arts integration in the classroom with the students. So we have poetry, visual art, we have dance, we have all of those music that we take into the classroom there. That's our arts integration programming. Right now, we're working really, really closely with Laguna and Navajo. Those are our 2 STEAM schools.
Right.
So STEM is probably something we hear a lot of, and we really, really want to push towards STEAM, which includes the arts.
The A in there for sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
Along with the science, technology, engineering, and math.
Yep.
They're all important.
Yep.
So those are the 2 STEAM schools here in the Scottsdale School District. So we are out there working with every teacher and almost every student in both of those schools really intentionally. Yeah. I was just this afternoon at Pima Elementary School taking a program out to some of their little kiddos there too. So but we also do arts programming, right? So we have arts integration that's really working with regular classroom teachers, teaching through art. But then we have, you mentioned, we have an exhibition space where we do an exhibition of youth work once a year. That's through our Visions program.
Okay.
Visions has been going on for about 25 years.
Okay.
I think it's one of the longest running, if not the longest running, teen program in the country. So 25 years ago, for a museum to run a teen program was pretty new.
Yeah.
MoMA was doing it. ICA Boston was doing it. I mean, those are heavy hitter museums in the country. So we are still running this program. It is a year-long program. We work with 6 area high schools: Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, Mesa, Tempe, Phoenix. And their teachers select 6 of their promising students. And that means a lot of different things: artistically, academically. And they participate in a year-long program where they visit artist studios, they work with working artists in our community. And the point is to really build resilience and goal-setting skills through the creation of a work of art that's then exhibited. So part of that is that we want them to be college career ready by the end of this. And we do college visits to ASU, U of A, and we also did Paradise Valley Community College this year. So they get to meet faculty, they get to look at the studios and really consider what a career in the arts could look like. We've had over 1,000 graduates of this program now. A couple of years ago, and you're hitting our 20th, we did a survey of some of the students just to see what did they do and how did this program impact you? We found some were art educators at the Art Institute of Chicago. Some are interior designers. Some are product designers here in the Valley, architects, doctors, and then, somebody who just didn't choose a career in the arts at all. But
What a pipeline that is, though.
yeah,
I know, right?
It's just a way to really teach, to enhance the skill of art in the school system.
Do you have a favorite story of somebody who went through that program and now is doing something really
I do.
special? Yeah, I thought you
do.
might. Who might that be?
So, I didn't work with her when she was in the Visions program, but she was a graduate of Saguaro High School, I think probably 4 or 5 years ago. She graduated and she ended up going to Tufts, and she was coming back in the summer and she was looking for an internship. And I also work on Canal Convergence, which is our big 10-day event that we do. Okay.
It's awesome. Yeah.
So I was doing I wanted to do some sort of scavenger hunt that we included robotics and art, and we wanted to build these like found object sculptures and do this whole augmented reality thing. And so Kaylee came on as my intern, and she was not only a graduate of the Visions program, so she understood working with the art teachers and the art students. She was also a graduate she was the president of the robotics club at Saguaro, which has a fantastic robotics program.
That's a big deal.
So she knew all the robotics students. So she came back and was like literally the perfect fit to get students involved in it. She knew the teachers. She was able to like help write the script for it. Like she was such a star intern. I had like the best team of artists and teachers and her and students to really like put this thing together. It was such a fun project, and I just really enjoyed working with Kaylee. So we do still see each other from time to time. She's now in her master's program at Tufts, but what she's doing, I mean, I can see how going through the Visions program taught her that creativity, problem solving, and artistic thinking, and really a human-centered approach to design is influencing her work that she wants to do in policy and in industrial design. So I can't wait to see where she goes. But yes, she's one of my little favorites.
No kidding.
Yeah. Wow.
Hey, let's talk about funding for a second, because it sounds like these programs have different funding sources, quite a bit different funding sources. Looking in the future, do you think that any of that's going to be in jeopardy, or do you think you'll be able to be funding all those programs in the future?
Well, I never take any funding for granted. I mean, really, like we can't ever rely on any single source of funding. Of course, we do get a ton of funding from the city, which is we are mandated to provide arts education. And I am eternally grateful for that, because it does provide stability to us to know that we don't have to fundraise every single dollar, because I can't go to a Title I school and expect that they have $1,000 for a residency.
No, right.
So just knowing that we can provide that level, that quality always is great. We do get a number of grants, and grants ebb and flow, right?
Yeah.
Like, again, they're never a consistent source. You have to apply every year. I'm eternally grateful for all the community and like state and national grants we get for this, but they're always that threat to go away.
Constantly working.
Always. So I think it's just constantly searching. We have a ton of individuals who are supporters of what we do. And that's been also terrific to have that there kind of offset, that we don't have to 100% rely on the city or the very fluidity of grants. Yeah. I do work. So one of the really unique and wonderful places we are with SUSD right now is the changes that happened federally with the Department of Education from a Common Core, not to nerd out on curriculum, because I don't want to, nor am I the expert to talk about that, but it was removed to an Every Student Succeeds Act back about 10 years ago. And what includes in there that's so significant for us is that it includes arts, because we are required to provide a well-rounded education. Common Core didn't really have that. It was really about the common basic things that we felt people needed to know to be successful. This one is really about a whole person and a whole approach. So with that came federal funding. That's how the department works, is they identify it and then they dole out funding based on that. And so the state of Arizona receives funding for what's called Title IV, which funds some of those every student succeeds at well-rounded education things like technology, but also things like art. If you don't have art in your schools, if you're a rural district, you can use that to fund art.
Right.
So we have that funding. And that is definitely, of course, at risk, right? With changes that are happening politically. But because we even had it, right, for the last few years, we've been able to demonstrate changes in test scores, changes in teacher excitement, changes in student engagement.
So you have the evidence
that we can still continue to get funding in other sources. So it's like, you can't rest on your laurels and say like, oh, we've got it covered. You have to be able to collect that evidence to keep that going. And I do get big into data and nerd on that because it is important that I not only feel good when I walk away, but I can't share a feel good with the funder, right? I can share a cute photo, but I also need to show like 85% of students better understood their curriculum as a result of this.
Powerful. Yeah.
And so we don't always, yes, they're always at threat, but I'm really thankful that we've had the funding that we have to be able to show this.
Yeah.
So we started talking about technology before. How are you, innovating with technology in all the work you're doing? And what do you see coming down the road? Because it's changing so fast and coming at us at lightning speed. How do you prepare for what's ahead?
Sure. One of the big ones we've been talking about as everybody is AI, right?
Sure,
AI is the devil or the angel, depending on how you're looking at it. But honestly, AI is a tool, just like you said before. It is not. Could it replace some things? Maybe. But what it is just trying to integrate the use of AI in positive ways, but also find the spaces where you can't use AI because it's a robot. It's not a human. So an example we've been talking about a lot lately is how AI can write us an arts integrated lesson plan. That's okay. Of course it can. But the ideas of the prompts that you put into it, the personalization you need to for your students, the conversations and the resources that you integrate into it, it's not going to replace you as a teacher. It's not going to replace you as the one facilitating it, but it's a tool to maybe take one of like 92,000 things on any teacher's plate, to take one little small thing away to say, okay, I can use this as a tool. So we've been working with the district to say like, what is the tool you're using and how do we learn it? So we can then train our teaching artists to say, you can use this tool too, right? Like you're a dancer. If you're a dancer, how would you write a 30-minute lesson plan for a kindergarten class where here are your curriculum objectives and how would you do that using movement? And it generates it for you. Now you can really focus on another piece. What other things you're going to layer into it. So that's how we've been embracing it and not walking away and being scared of it.
Well, in a digital world, though, it's still really important to have hands-on activities too. So how do you balance those things?
Well, there's things that like technology, again, like in our Visions program, we use a lot of technology to teach students in the multimedia group how to use different ways of using digital photography, how to do animations, how to explore these different tools that exist out there. They've been doing like 3D modeling, projection mapping, like all these, I don't even understand what 3D modeling does, to be perfectly honest with you, but it's cool when they do it. Video game design. Like the point is that we have to know kind of what's coming down the pike to prepare students to enter into a world that we can't predict. If I think about when I went to undergrad or even grad school, I didn't think there'd be AI that could be a tool for me, right? So we have to be with the game to help them have the skills to predict the game down the road.
So do you have any advice for other educators or community leaders about how they can incorporate arts into their programs, people that you're not reaching now? Is just a general thought or two about ways that the light bulbs might start going on about, hey, the arts is a really great way to get to some of the education goals that we're looking at? What's an advice look like that way?
I mean, with schools, if art is scary or it feels like it's maybe it's taking away from quote curriculum time, I think that's a concern we see. Is the arts have always been treated as a specials, as a elective, as something that's an add-on. When you look at arts integration, it is at curriculum time. It is during curriculum time. You're not adding anything, and the outcomes we are seeing from that are better understanding, higher test scores, engage teachers. There is not a single school that wouldn't want those three things to be the goals they're achieving. So from that perspective, I don't think there is an excuse to not integrate arts into any school. And with community, I mean, again, I'm going to keep my educator hat on here to say all people learn differently. You're going to have people who like to listen to music over reading, over writing up something. You're going to have a person who wants to see something visually and have it down for you. I think if you integrate the arts or integrate music and movement and dance, if you're a fidgety person who needs to move around, dance might be the thing that you need to have, or movement, incorporate those things into what you are doing. Because if you teach people to what their intelligence is, they'll better understand and take away more from it and have a better experience because of it.
As you're speaking, the question comes to my mind. It's a political question. How can arts be used to help narrow the political divide that is in all our communities today? What are some thoughts you can do about how arts could be a tool for that? Mm-hmm. You have some answers, don't you?
I do. I have a couple, but I think the biggest one that I've seen, arts is a middle person, or a middle thing, not even a person. It's a safe space to look at let's say we're going to look at a piece of art together, and you're on one side of the proverbial room and you're on the other side, but we're coming to this together. We're going to look at it together. What I find happens is you say, I see this. And you go, I never saw that before. Well, I see this because I used to do this. Oh, you did that? You worked there? What happens is you guys start to know who you are. You start to find out a little bit about yourself, that you're not just an R or a D or whatever. You're actually a human. And there is going to be a shared space for you to have a conversation, or at least have a chance to build towards conversation. Because we all come to the table so angry and passionate, which is fabulous, but it's not good for communication. And then there are studies that show people who sit in a theater together and share an experience of seeing live music, live dance, live performance together, their hearts start to sink together. It might not be the space where you're going to have a conversation about it, but you're having a shared experience. Then maybe you'll have a conversation after about it. So there is something really magical about making art be the kind of safe middle space that you can attack it, and I won't get mad at you maybe, but you can start to open those conversations.
I love it.
So you guys have got some new facilities at your disposal in the last couple of years. Has your programming been able to utilize that new spaces and the outdoor stages and things like that?
Not yet, but you segue so well into, so we do an event called the Scottsdale Family Arts Fest, and that takes place at SkySong. We've been doing that the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's great.
And I'm really hopeful, fingers crossed, that we can really bring it to that in the future.
Oh, okay. When is it?
So the Scottsdale Family Arts Fest will be March 21st and 22nd. Okay. It's at SkySong, just in that road, Perfect. Like between all the buildings. Yeah. We'll have 2 stages. All the students, like the quartets, the theater groups, the orchestras, the elementary choirs, all of those will be performing. We have all of the students from the elementary all the way through high school. Art programs will have their artwork up. We have free activities, food trucks, you name it. City of Scottsdale people will be there. So that's fun. So that's one way I've been kind of watching that space evolve and being used in different ways, the festivals, the shows, and then seeing how we could then help produce a community arts event, which is really
pretty cool. Yeah.
That would be cool. Make sure to go. I'll go.
I've been wanting to go. The last 2 years I've had to miss it, but I got a circle on my calendar this year for sure.
This is an amazing conversation today.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of arts helping to pull together people who are so divided right now. I can just see going to a Scottsdale City Council meeting, put a bunch of paintings up in the Kiva during the next meeting.
No kidding.
Saying, let's start looking at this together, people, and realize we have more in common than we might think.
Well, and once again, Don, we discovered that we think we know an organization or something like that, and it's so much broader than we think about. When I think of Scottsdale Arts, I think of SMOCA, I think about the SPPA, and I think about public art. Exactly. But they're way deeper. They have way more reach than that. With
long-lasting effects.
Yes.
For the betterment of our community. So awesome. As we wrap up today, just maybe one thought. If you wanted to describe the power of art, how would you describe it?
Ooh. I mean, it really does change lives. I mean, there are examples of kids going in that Visions program, especially during COVID.
Oh yeah.
So you think of being a kid teenager stuck in your room. You don't know when you're going to get back to school. And we mailed out 450 art packages to students to keep that program going during COVID. We never missed a beat during COVID. I just want to say, like, I don't really want to revisit it right now, but you know, we did not. And these kids didn't, that they would show up for that class. They would show up for that workshop. They didn't want to do it. You know, they would turn their cameras on in our programs. Like, this was really, they were safe spaces in the stories we would get from students, and just thank you for being here. And maybe they'd make art, maybe they wouldn't, but really, like, it just goes to show you, like, we as arts administrators are super nimble and just quickly adapt and don't miss a beat. But we do that because we know that these kids needed it. Adults needed it. You know, I really did see changes in people as a result of that. So in crisis, the arts can really change lives.
Art changes lives. That's going to be my takeaway today for sure. And we've had plenty of examples of why. What an amazing conversation this was today. Kevin, this is why we come here with smiles on our face every
time. It's always good.
Fantastic stuff for sure. But congrats and thank you for all the work you're doing for our community through all your programming, because it's making a big difference. So we really appreciate that. Thanks to all of you for listening. We hope that you'll share our podcast with your friends, especially when we have guests like Natalie today. You don't want to miss it. Check us out at our website, scottnow.com, and we'll see you all next week for another edition of Today and Tomorrow in Scottsdale.